welcome to another PSCEP solution class. And I just want to say, give y'all another round of applause for finishing the parenting manual. Yay! So we are moving on to our next book, which is the Moral Excellence in the Workplace. All right, so now this book came out in 2014. So it's one of the newer PSCEP solution books that we were able to bring out. And there are a lot of high points from the intermediate series, the Building Moral Excellence, and even the Parenting Manual that we'll pull from to add for key points into this book as well. But as all the PSCEP solution books, it is for all people, any walk of life, no matter where you're from or what your story has been. So let us start with our PSCEP Solution Character Education Program overview. So we're going to be on page 20 of that. It's going to be like halfway down the page, the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program in the Workplace. An Advanced Character Education Employee Training Program. Now, the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program, why it is needed in the workplace. And just with this title, it gives one a lot to think about because we have our schools, we have homes, and we also have workplace. And all of these places need the PSCEP solution. So it says, studies have shown that employees who provide additional programming, motivational incentives, and family-related activities for their employees greatly enhance their annual productivity. It is readily apparent that people respond well to the simple concept of appreciation. And it's very normal because people, no matter who you are, need to know that they are needed and appreciated. I always think of, when I read that, when you tell a child, great job, or I'm very pleased that you did this, you see their face light up. Now, as adults, you might not want to say that your face lights up when someone tells you you did a great job, but you can see the uplifted spirit of a person when they are acknowledged for the work that they are doing or the work that they are going to do, and it's very encouraging. So, with this workplace manual, I was thinking, what are employees looking for? Where we have this manual here that guides us with how to have positive character in the workplace. So what are employees looking for? So I Googled it. These days, when you don't know something that well, you Google it. And then it's your discernment whether to use it or not. So they are looking for communication skills, honesty, loyalty, dependability, teamwork, flexibility, self-reliance, eagerness to learn, confidence, work ethic, determination, problem-solving skills, positivity, ambition, and this one surprised me. It says emotional intelligence. And I was thinking, emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence? So basically, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand both your own emotions and the emotions of those around you. And within the workplace, this comes in very handy. There are many signs that a person might have high emotional intelligence. And the biggest example of that is, can anyone guess the answer? When you hear emotional intelligence, you think of, it's one word, starts with an E. Anyone? You can shout out the answer. Empathy. All right? So I was wondering, what else does emotional intelligence include? And there's a reason why I'm going into this part. Emotional intelligence includes, for an individual, being able to accept criticism and responsibility. Being able to move on after making a mistake, acknowledging that you did make a mistake, but being able to move past that. Being able to say no when you need to. Being able to share your feelings with others. Being able to solve problems in ways that work for everyone. Having empathy for other people. Having great listening skills. Knowing why you do the things you do and not being judgmental of others. And, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, if I take this same list, and as we go through each page and each chapter of the workplace unit, we can check off each point. Because with the PSCEP solution, they hit each and every one of these points and shows why it's important to not only have it in an individual's lives, but why it's important to have it in the workplace, the schools, the home. So, as there is two sides to everything, I also looked up, what do employees look for in an employer? So they said clear expectations and goals, recognition and praise, communication, growth, trust, responsibility, respect, pride in the work, and learning. So all of these things can be taught using the PSCEP solution, showing that it's not just for an individual's workers, but it's also for the management, from the CEO all the way down to whoever is in the company. And that's how the PSCEP solution works. It doesn't single out an individual, it teaches everyone. So going back to the overview, it says, today, however, personal problems and pressures of everyday living increasingly overwhelm the workplace, coping with the stress and anxieties of mounting debt, failed marriages, frustrations of parenting, sickness and disease, and the high cost of living often push an employee to his or her breaking point. Employees find themselves at a loss on how best to assist their valued employees while attempting to encourage and maintain a high standard of performance. So it goes right back to that emotional intelligence, or having empathy. So what it means is to be a supervisor, teacher, and authority over a group of people. And this is what the workplace manual teaches. And when I saw this part where it says supervisor, teacher, and authority, it automatically reminded me of the parenting manual. You're probably thinking workplace parenting manual, but it is true. Where on page 25 it says that a parent needs to be a teacher, provider, and a disciplinarian. And in life, we're constantly fulfilling multiple roles. We never just have one sole role. We're always either setting an example for others, teaching others, showing others how to do this. We're always having multiple roles. And it's the same thing with running a company or working in a company. So it is difficult dealing with people and their emotional experiences. We carry these memories wherever we go. We each have our struggles. We can't just shrug it off like we do a backpack. We carry it with us wherever we go. So a person who is an employee can carry these problems with them, as it says in the paragraph. Mounting debt, the high cost of living. We all know the high cost of living these days. Living within a budget, and in society today we have a lot going on mentally as well. And that can really weigh a person down with how they deal with that and how others respond to that as well. Furthermore, personnel who are dealing with problems and anxieties often have difficulties controlling their own behaviors and emotion. Employee interpersonal relationships suffer. Conflicts, jealousy, anger, gossip, and ridicule frequently distract and subsequently hamper work productivity. So every time we hear anything that goes back to emotions, I want you to think on the emotional intelligence. And this is the first time, like I said, the first time I'm hearing about the emotional intelligence, but apparently it's a really big thing. And we know with the PSCEP solution, empathy is a big thing. But I'm talking about in society today, we have quizzes to grade your IQ, emotional intelligence. And I thought it was just a bit weird because, and at least for me, with learning the PSCEP solution, we automatically assume everyone has empathy. But in today's society, that is not always the case. And we've come to a point where we have to grade emotional intelligence to show how people deal with certain situations. These days, they pretty much have a test for everything, and it's the same thing with dealing with people emotionally. So companies can be helped significantly with the PSCEP solution character education program. See, and I love that sentence right there. There's no IQ test that needs to be taken. There's no, what is the word I'm looking? There's no way that trips a person up when learning the PSCEP solution, because it's broken down in a way that helps every individual. A sound, positive character enables men and women to acquire the kinds of skills they need to cope with mounting pressures in productive and personally satisfying ways. The PSCEP Solution Character Education Program is the best solution for employees who are genuinely concerned for both their valued employees and their business. And with business, yes, there needs to be a profit coming in, but it's not just about business and making money. Especially with people who are in supervisor positions, they have to also think of the people who are working under them as well, and think of how certain situations can affect them, but also knowing and trusting that they have the capability to handle these situations as well. And that is where the PSCEP solution comes in. And it's a perfect example of the ripple effects. With productivity, with the PSCEP solution, everyone being responsible, there's trust, responsibility. The business side of that business will go up. When the people are doing what they need to be doing, the business side does go up. And it's a positive ripple effect for that. So in addition, companies are now turning to character education as a method of maintaining in-house theft. Many businesses suffer substantial losses due to theft committed by their own employees. What's more, stealing can occur in a number of ways that most people do not even consider as theft. The internet, for instance, has created an opportunity for staff to take numerous unscheduled breaks to the detriment of not only employee performance, but also a growing number of employer-employee conflicts. When values are misplaced and negative attitudes toward employment are freely spoken, employees can find themselves justifying their actions. The PSCEP Solution Character Education Program addresses positive moral character as something to be desired and ultimately cherished, meaning they see the value in having this program in their life to implement it when they're working, when they're home, or whatever part of their life. The need for character education stems from the simple fact that we take our character wherever we go, from home to school and on to the work setting. Character is built on values and principles, and as we learned before, values is something that we deem important or hold high regard for, and principles are rules, which have been molded or shaped by the influences around us. As important as character is, we have found that it is one of the least developed aspects of education, and that is, we could label that under one of the sad facts of life. Character education, something that we all should go through in life to learn how to be a productive member of society, or just to be an individual who, their morals are right. They walk great with the laws of the land and everything like that. So the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program in the workplace can be a great asset to business organizations worldwide as a means to improve the ethical and moral standards in companies. The program is adaptable to meet every organization's schedules and needs. All right, so now we're going to go into the breakdown of each chapter real quick. And there's 8 chapters in this one, but the funny thing is this book has 40 more pages than the parenting manual. So that's just a little fun fact. So chapter 1, Wanted, workers with positive character. So in this chapter, we're going to learn what character and personality are. And for those who have been going to our PSCEP solution classes, it has the same wording from the BME book, page 4. Another bullet point, explore the difference between the two and how they are related to the workplace environment. And in the character unit, we teach how we can be hired on personality, but fired on character. And that is just an interesting fact. Hired on personality, what you present to the table, whether it's in your interview, whether it's in a form of the resume, but fired based on your character. Do you steal time from work? Do you steal equipment from work? Are you rude to your boss? Or basically, they call it insubordination. And the definition, I had to get the definition for insubordination because it is a big word. So it's the act of willingly disobeying an order of one's superior. So you willingly, you know it's wrong, but you still willingly disobey. And this is what the peaceful solution was created for, to avoid this, whether it's in school, home, or the workplace. All right, chapter 2, self-control, the essential ingredient to a successful work environment. And remember, this talks about learn that self-control is the foundation of positive character traits and is essential to a successful, productive, and peaceful environment. Remember, we learned self-control is the foundation to a positive moral character. All right, going down to chapter 3, mine's, yours, and theirs, ownership in the workplace. And, this immediately brought me back to, I'm sad to say, the kindergarten lessons where it talks about mine, yours, and theirs, and it talks about ownership. But we realize as we go through life, ownership still applies regardless of where you are or who you are. Learn about ownership and learn about the importance of ownership in the workplace. All right, chapter 4, ask, more than just a 3-letter word. Learn about the importance of asking in the workplace. And we know in a workplace setting, asking is one of the top things an individual does. When you don't know, you ask. When you're not sure, you ask. All right, explore the consequences of not asking and the rewards of asking as well. Chapter 5. Respect. Give it freely. Learn what respect is, how it is developed, and what benefits in the work and its benefits in the work environment. And the key to respect in the workplace is that it must be developed. Like an investment, basically. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And it says that, right? I believe it's in the preface of the book where respect, just like character, is not an overnight thing. It's something that must be built on, like trust, responsibility, dependability. All of those things must be built upon, just like an investment, as it says. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. Chapter 6, responsibility in the workplace. Explore the importance of behaving responsibly in the workplace and why it is so important, because responsibility also it eliminates recklessness, whether that is being late to work, not showing up to work, or it falls under a lot of different things. Chapter 7, honesty, a must in the workplace. Explore the value of honesty in the workplace and behaviors that demonstrate honesty. And when I read that, it always brings me back to leadership in the BME book, where it talks about why honesty is a great thing, especially when it deals with companies. And chapter 8, management leads with character. Focuses on the skills and traits needed to become an effective manager and leader. And this is the third book that covers leadership. Who remembers the first 2 books that cover leadership? Shout it out. First 2 books. I kind of consider it our beginning and our semi-end in the intermediate series. Character, and there's one more. Not responsibility. Close. It's the BME book. So it's character, chapter 6, and the BME book, chapter 4. Building Moral Excellence book, chapter 4. And those cover leadership. And if you go back to those books, I love how, I always say this, I love how they build up to leadership, because it starts with the individual. We know that. But it shows you everything that an individual is supposed to have, but then it hits on leadership, also reminding you that just like everyone else, a leader must have the characters of what they're trying to instill in their people as well. All right, so that is it for our overview of the workplace manual. So let us go into the preface on page G. All right, so preface. Why this program? So this program, Moral Excellence in the Workplace, was developed by the PSCEP Solution Character Education Incorporated to promote positive moral character in the workplace all across this nation and around the world. And I love how we always put it's not just our nation or the nation you're living in, but it is a program that can help every single nation. Once you apply it, it works. Positive moral character is just as valuable in our work environments as it is in our schools, homes, and all other aspects of society. And I want you to highlight that too, because that is an important part there. Positive moral character is just as valuable in our work environment as it is in our schools, homes, and other aspects of society. So as a matter of fact, it is the ultimate goal of the PSCEP Solution Character Education Program to prevent problems from arising in the first place. Remember that PSCEP Solution is a preventative program. This can be successfully accomplished by providing training in positive moral character, then practicing positive moral behavior in all situations and interactions we encounter. Accomplishing this goal will produce a more peaceful, safe, productive, and healthy way of life for all. And this is what the PSCEP Solution offers. And for this last sentence here, if you're doing like a business pitch, this would be the perfect business pitch because it has the words peaceful, safe, productive, and healthy. And anybody who owns a business definitely wants those aspects in their business as well. So I consider it the perfect pitch for introducing the workplace manual. All right, so going down to the third paragraph, training in character education is becoming popular in homes, community center, youth groups, primary and secondary classrooms, universities, and penal systems. We now offer training to promote a more cohesive, productive work environment. Or in another way, a productive way of living overall in our society. The PSCEP Solution Character Education Program is essential to all areas of society, promoting peaceful values globally. We've established a universal code of conduct that is essential to the development of peace for everyone in all walks of life and for all ages. And we went over this universal code of conduct before. It's the laws of peace, moral principles that can be accepted globally, saying thank you, saying please. They bring no harm to anyone or the environment, no matter the culture, nationality, or ethnicity as well. A workplace can be made up of people from different environment, cultures, and religious beliefs. It can include services of technological industries, research facilities, or even military and police departments. It is a fact that every individual needs to develop positive character. So that's basically saying whoever you are, whatever you do, whatever you want to do in life, as long as the PSCEP Solution is involved in the character education, one cannot go wrong. Yet not everyone is raised to know, for example, what respect is or how to show respect to others and their belongings. And that is an excellent example because if we look anywhere in today's society, we see how respect is greatly needed. Or if you take any subject in the PSCEP Solution, you can see how it is greatly needed in our workplace and overall our society. Nor does everyone know how to control their anger and other negative emotions in the mindset of setbacks. Remember, going back to that empathy or that emotional intelligence. Despite such a wide variety of character and personality traits, moods, opinions, and stressors, we are often placed in confined spaces to work together and accomplish goals. Remember, we can link the word stressors to triggers, something that a trigger lets you know is something that you don't exactly agree with, as we went over in the parenting manual. And just how it is the same for children, it is the same way for adults. This is no small task. Not only do we have to serve others, make products, and meet deadlines, but we must also fulfill these obligations amongst people who are oftentimes very different from us, and whom we may know very little about. One thing is sure, we are all humans. We all have value as a unique individual, and we all deserve to be respected and treated fairly. And I love when we read sentences like this individual, because it puts so much more value than society puts on individuals in today's society. For many of us, we may spend more time during the week in our work environments with our coworkers than with our own families. And I could not find where it says it in the intermediate series. If anyone knows, let me know. But it says the same thing for students. Students spend more time in the classroom than at home. And as adults, it's pretty much the same thing. We spend more time at work than we do with our family. The work community for many can become a home away from home. Interacting with positive character traits will make the difference between a productive and satisfying day and one with frustration or feeling you've not carried your load. In short, it is the difference between looking forward to your job or dreading it. Remember, it's all about mindset. The mindset of how you walk into a situation is exactly what you are going to get out of that situation. When looked at from this standpoint, coupled with the increase of violent occurrences in the workplace, triple that now in the year 2021, it is easy to see why we should make the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program an integral part of the work environment. And integral, we know in more than one of our books, we have what integral means. It's that integral part of why the Peaceful Solution, and when a person has, completely ingested the Peaceful Solution and knows how it works, you become a person of integrity. So schools of higher learning focus on training individuals how to develop careers in various fields. Rarely, if ever, is there any focus on teaching students how to develop traits such as self-control, honesty, respect, or the importance of positive interaction. How then can we expect adults entering the workplace to consistently exhibit these positive character traits? And it's just like with children. How can we expect a child to exhibit these traits if it is not taught to them? And society lacks training in character education, even in the workplace. How can we expect them to interact with consideration and respect, to treat others fairly? So these are all points to think about as we go through this book. I have my checklist. Every time I learn something that is on this list, I will check it off, because this is exactly what the Peaceful Solution is. It's exactly what the Peaceful Solution teaches. It teaches to respect others and to treat them fairly, and why it is important. So with this, I will turn it over to the next teacher to continue with paragraph 2 on page H.
Hello, everyone. Let's give that previous teacher a round of applause, because she did an awesome job. We're going to continue on page H in the first column, where it starts, we assume that as children grow and mature, they will automatically develop moral character traits. Now remember, we're learning to be able to teach this to others. So we want to take our own personal experiences that we have and incorporate it in as we're teaching, so that we can empathize with what is being taught, and empathize with our students as we're teaching it. But this is no, this could not be further from the truth, because you have to teach positive moral character, and that's something that the peaceful solution really drives home. And when you're in the workforce, which is something you really need to remember, is everybody's from a different walk of life, a different culture, a different belief. Everybody has some standards that they have to live by. And yet, within the workplace, you have to make it all mesh. And when it's not meshing, we have to have ways to solve that. And that's one of the things that the peaceful solution does. And not everybody was taught the proper way to treat other people. They can be inconsiderate, or they can be disrespectful because they weren't taught how to do it. In the beginning, when the first teacher was speaking, she made the comment about most people are hired on their personality, but they're terminated on their character. Well, a great example is most of the time when you're in an interview, you're putting forth your best foot. And for those of you that have been in that situation, you understand what I'm saying. And you're very outgoing, and you're putting forth everything, and you're thinking, oh, wow, this is going to be a really great person, especially in the area of hospitality. Hospitality, where you have to serve the customer, where you have to serve the people. You're saying, oh, this person's going to interact really well and everything. But that's all that person spends their time doing. Talking, joking, laughing, going from department to department to department, but they're never getting the work done. So they end up getting terminated for that. One of the things that you want to teach your students is how to look beyond that personality and to see what's inside the person. Ask key questions to help them to bring out who they are. One of the most difficult questions that you can ask anyone in an interview is, tell me about your character. Well, I think I'm a friendly person. I like doing this, I like doing that, but that's personality. And that's one of the things that we really want to drive home as teachers, on how to tell a difference so that we can actually help our students to understand the difference in the workplace, because it's a hard balance. Where I worked, we had people from Africa, we had people from Cuba, we had people from Nepal, you name it, all around the world. And every culture has a different relation, a different status and things like that. And one of the things that I didn't realize is there's a lot of prejudice out there. And in Africa, you have your blacks here, and then you have the blacks here. But this group of blacks is of a lower class, and they have to knuckle under to this group. Didn't know that until we started having refugees coming in to where we were working, and the chief engineer explained it. Well, that's because they're of a lower status. I says, they're the same as you. I couldn't understand that. And that's what we want to really try to help when we're teaching about this to our students, because it's important to realize that there are those different factors, as the first teacher shared with us. So continuing on, let's start over at that paragraph. We assume that as children grow and mature, and it's the same thing for adults in different cultures, they will automatically develop moral character traits. This could not be further from the truth. Children and young adults are routinely bombarded with the entertainment industry that glorifies violence, disrespect, dishonesty, just to name a few. And how many times you might want to bring out to your students, when something that is inappropriate is done, those that are around them laugh. Are they laughing because they think it's cool, or just because they don't know how to handle it? These are the things that we want to take into consideration. In addition, most schools do not offer character education as a mandatory part of the curriculum. Families are becoming increasingly dysfunctional and have a greater number of children suffer from emotional, sexual, and physical abuse. And you can reference at the end of that sentence the character unit, chapter 2, where it goes into a lot more detail so that it gives you, as a teacher, a greater understanding. Because when those questions come to you in your class, you're going to want to have a firm foundation so that you can help your students learn how to deal with this in the workplace. You also might want to highlight that very first sentence that we read, along with the one that this could not be further from the truth, because it is a misconception. Continuing on, with so few examples of positive moral character in our daily lives, as well as a lack of formal character education in our school, is it any wonder we as a society are experiencing the issues, the conflicts, and violence that is erupting in workplaces throughout the world? And as time progresses, now keep in mind right now while you're teaching your students, everybody's coming out of isolation in many areas. They're coming out of that, I'm only with my family. The stress level is unbelievable right now for people out there in the world that are coming out of that isolation and coming back into the workplace where they have to maintain because places are opening up and everything. We were very blessed in the fact that we didn't shut down, because where I worked, it was a 24/7 essential business, so that we didn't shut down. But it doesn't mean that you haven't had to experience some of the things that people are going through. Like, they finally can get out, they finally can come to a place, and they walk into the swimming pool because they want to go and enjoy the pool, only to see 40 people in there and saying, "Why do you have so many people in here? We could get COVID." Well, then why are you going in the swimming pool? But yet, as you're teaching the work environment, you have to teach them how to handle this kind of situations too, because we're in a new world now where you have to take in all these different things. So stay current with the current events and the situations that are going on in the world today so that you can help your students to the best of your abilities. Continuing on, just think about it. We send children to school to learn to read and write. We send adults to schools of higher education or higher learning to learn about trades and build businesses. Doesn't it make sense that training in positive character development should be of equal importance in all levels of society? As we learn to become teachers, we need to take that first step to learn and then practice the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. As each of us embarks on our own study, of the moral excellence in the workplace, pay close attention and really focus on this. Pay close attention to the behavioral modification skills that are taught, because they're going to help you as a teacher teach others to teach this. It is a proven fact that when practiced, these techniques can change an environment where there is dishonesty, disrespect, and intolerance to one where there is trust, greater respect, and better communication and interaction. And one of the things that I can share with you is we're in a meeting, and one of the managers was being obnoxious, but that was her personality. And the main manager looked at me and she said, "Why do you put up with it? Why didn't you put her in her place in front of us all?" And with the Peaceful Solution training, I looked back at her and I said, why would I want to do that to her when I wouldn't want it done to myself? And these are things that we have to stop and think about, and these are tools that we can give to our students as we're teaching them. Through character education, we can develop work environments where employees interact with care and concern. And we know care and concern is respect. And you might want to highlight that as a friendly reminder. And are willing to work out conflicts peaceably and put forth genuine effort to complete all the tasks to the best of their ability. Now, one of the things that we want to probably put a note down in there is to consider the role of the employee and the employer. Everyone has to answer to someone, even if it's a customer, even if it's a guest, even if it's someone that just walks by your establishment, trips on the concrete that's in front of your place of business, and they want to know why you didn't fix that crack. One of the best things you can teach your students is when somebody points that out to you, teach them to say thank you to that person that has done that. And a friend of mine many years ago made the comment, when something like that comes up, when conflict comes up, just look at them and say, thank you for pointing that out to me. They can't argue with something like that. And it validates what they just said to you. So this is something that we want to remember as we're teaching our students, to give them the tools that the Peaceful Solution has given to us. Okay, continuing on, we're going to move on to the introduction, and that's on page I. Character education is no longer just for school-aged children. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program was designed to facilitate the development and growth of a positive moral character in participants, both young and old, regardless of their age, nationality, religion, or occupation. And I'll stop right there, because one of the greatest things about the Peaceful Solution is as we grow in it, and as your students are growing in it, those four things aren't going to matter. They're not going to see age in someone. They're not going to see someone's nationality. They're not going to care what someone's beliefs are. And they're not going to care as far as what they do for work, because the Peaceful Solution teaches us that we're all the same with our own quirky differences, but that's what makes us who we are. This program has brought measurable benefits to leaders, law enforcement centers, early learning centers, youth groups, church organizations, elementary, intermediate, and high schools, colleges, as well as after-school, summer, and community programs. Additionally, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Parenting Program has helped thousands of parents learn how to become positive, moral people in order to raise morally outstanding children. And as we're teaching it within the workplace, we can develop team members, employees that are also outstanding because they have developed that character education, that moral character that every business establishment searches for. Continuing on, in this program, Moral Excellence in the Workplace, the focus is on character education as an important aspect of on-the-job training. Now, you might want to highlight on-the-job training and throw a cross-reference in there. And that cross-reference is VIP. And it's found in Chapter 3 of the Character Unit. It is not uncommon that before an employee is officially hired, he or she must undergo orientation and training. But with so many people being terminated for stealing, insubordination, or sexually inappropriate behavior, traditional orientation and training are no longer adequate. Think of the wasted time and effort in orienting and training employees only to later fire them for intolerable behavior or for failing to follow rules and procedures. And one thing that you can relate to and you can share with your students is it is not cheap doing background checks. drug tests and credit background checks, which is something that we required before you could get hired, because if you couldn't pass the background check or a credit background check or pass the drug test, then you couldn't be hired. And it was at least, I want to say it was $100 a person just to start the hiring process. And when you go through all of this, only to have somebody not take the final test, which is the drug test, or to say, nah, I'm not going to have any problem with drugs, only to have them go take the drug test and fail. And then they say, well, I used only 2 months ago. Well, it stays in your system a long time. So these are things that we can help within this program to learn how to ask the right questions so that we're helping find the right people that are going to be a great fit for our businesses. Continuing on, it is not uncommon that before an employee is officially hired, he or she must undergo into orientation. Okay, continuing on. Training in moral character, as presented through the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program's Moral Excellence in the Workplace, encompasses not only behaviors, but attitudes and communication skills as well. Now that's a big one right there, attitudes and communication skills as well. I think communication was one of the worst difficulties where I worked. It was assumed you knew what they were talking about, but yet we're all speaking in different languages. And this is something when you're teaching this course, you want to remind them everybody's speaking in different languages, and it might be the same English language, but it's a different dialect, it's a different area, it's how they were taught. And we even had to use a program online where you type in what you want to say in English, it translates it into that language, but then it retranslates it into English totally different than what you just typed in. And so you have to find the way to put the words together so that it says what you want it to say, but so that they can understand it in their language. And these are the stumbling blocks that places of employment have nowadays, but there's ways to get around it, there's ways to work through it. And then you've got attitudes. Like they said in the beginning, they're bringing a lot of baggage. That baggage doesn't go away when you walk through the doors at your job. It's still there, it's still weighing on you, it's still bringing you down. But you're expected to put that smile on your face. But if that right incident takes place, that trigger, then it all turns upside down. We had a tree that everybody's name was put on the tree, and then before you went into the job, they said to touch the tree to leave your problems behind, but when you leave and touch the tree again, to take the problems back with you. In other words, don't bring them into the workplace. So help your students learn to come up with ways to help people be aware of what their attitudes and what their emotions are so that they are able to lessen that frustration that is in the workplaces. With behaviors such as theft, harassment, tardiness, absenteeism, conflict, and aggression on the rise, we cannot delay putting this program into place to help decrease, if not eliminate, these problematic issues. And I think one of the biggest issues is tardiness, because you have this person that just worked the overnight shift that's supposed to leave at 7 o'clock, but not till you count all your banks, but you don't get there till 7:15, and it takes you at least 15, 20 minutes to count the banks. Well, now that person has stayed an extra hour and a half. So that ties into overtime, which ties into budgets and things like this. We have to train our students how they can help to make these situations real. The next one probably is theft. Not so much theft of property, which is common, but theft of time, when you're spending the time, or when your employees are spending their time on the phone instead of doing their job. Conflict and aggression on the rise. We cannot put a delay in this program and problematic issues. Let's face it, although we try to be the best of, to the best of our abilities to learn as much as we can about a prospective employee before he or she is hired, we can only learn so much. Nobody's going to put on their worst face. Nobody's going to tell you what they really do. But as you go through this program, think of your place of work that you're going to be teaching this to your students. Think of your place of work and what are the biggest problem areas, and incorporate that into the interview section, such as, what do you do when this takes place? One of the questions that I ask is, how do you handle stress? And they say, oh, great, no problem. Next time they're stressed, they're totally blowing up because they can't take it. So these are questions that you want to, but don't count that they're always going to tell the truth, but find a way to question it so that they have to stop and think. If they don't stop and think, then they're probably not being as honest as they probably could be. But if they have to stop and think, then you know they're really considering what you're talking about, and that's a positive sign. Usually a person's true character becomes apparent only after he or she has been caught breaking the rules or is involved in a tragic incident, the kind we hear about on the nightly news and read about in the newspapers. Could training in positive moral character have changed the outcome of some of these tragedies? Absolutely. Wherever there are people working together, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, Moral Excellence in the Workplace, can help improve their interaction by raising the standards of proper and acceptable conduct. But including this program as part of the training in your workplace employment or your place of employment, you will be taking measurable steps towards making your work environment a more respectful, productive, stress-free, and peaceful place for all. Turning to page J, by incorporating this program in your work setting, your employees will recognize the concern you have for them as individuals. And as you're teaching the teachers to be able to teach this, really drive that point home, because you have to establish that you really do care about your team members, your employees. We use team members because the owner of the company did not like the word employees. So when I say team members, I am referring to employees, but you have to let them know you care. And you do it with your words, you do it with your actions, you do it with how you train them. Did you learn to tie your shoes once on the first try around? Or did it take several times of repeating? When you're teaching your child how to walk, did they walk the first time you stood them up? Well, it's the same thing with those that were training in the workplace. They're going to stumble, they're going to fall, they're going to forget, they're going to be overwhelmed, and then you're going to start getting a mix of emotions and everything. And these are the things that we want to remember. By incorporating this program in your work setting, your employees will recognize the concern that you have for them as individuals. Much of what your employees learn in this program will assist them not only with the work-related issues, but personal issues as well. Oftentimes, employees' personal problems accompany them to the workplace, as we shared earlier, affecting their job performance and making the workplace environment tense and stressful. And one of the things that you can relate to is, have you ever walked into a room in the greatest of moods, and then all of a sudden that mood comes crashing down because of a comment, because of a look, because of a, why didn't you do this? These are the things that we have to keep in mind. It affects us. It affects our employees, and it will affect our students as they're learning too, because I don't know how many of you just finished the parenting class, but to me, that was one of the most difficult classes I've ever had to take. And as you go through this, you're going to have your students saying, wow, I've really messed up. But don't let them feel that way. Let them know that now we're going forward. Stop looking back, move forward. The fact is, character education accompanies us wherever we go, and many employees will benefit from this program professionally and personally. Their appreciation will greatly assist you in developing an excellent employer-employee relationship and work environment. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, Moral Excellence in the Workplace, will provide an easy-to-understand method of communication that all employees, regardless of language barriers, ethnicity, personality, culture, or religion, can utilize to facilitate better and more peaceful interaction. And one of the things that you can note in that big space, because this was a little bit longer, but I found it important, is in Texas, Texas is one of the highest states for teacher-student relationships, and we've promoted the workplace program in schools, but the teachers don't want the program for themselves. They only want it for the students. So as you're training your students for the workplace manual, make sure that they understand it's not just for the employees. Because if the managers aren't doing their job, who the employees look up to, then how are they going to bring them into the kind of work ethic that they're expecting or wanting? It's those in a position of authority that have the effect on those that they are supervising, and that's something that we want to really drive home to our students so that they understand and they remember these things. Also, one of the things, well, we'll continue that when we get on, but we want to keep these things in mind because this is a very valuable tool. And I'm not going to continue on with how to use this program because we'll have to stop after the first or second words, but take this course and really look at it. Really apply it to your work experiences. Apply it to those that you've had issues with when you're working. And as we're going through it, think to yourself so that you can make the most of the teaching that you're bringing forth. Think to yourself, how could I have taken this situation and had a better outcome? Make those notes as students. Encourage your students because you're training to be teachers and you have to make them be able to connect with what's being said. So have them make a note as you're going through it or when they're at home and thinking of, okay, this is what I did today, so that they can actually start to connect with the program and make the program what it needs to be to get the most out of it and help their business establishment. Thank you very much for your attention, and